She does interesting things with the science you already know and love, giving it to you in a way that you don't know. She's also the host of the Cafe
Gallery, Cabaret.
Thank you.
2020 North Oakley.
2020 North Oakley. Nice.
Every other Wednesday.
Every other Wednesday.
Speaking of science. So, ladies and gentlemen, put your hands together for Janet Kuypers.
I have to say, because I'm a publisher at Scars Publications, I always release chapbooks of what I'm going to be reading at shows, and especially because there are people here I don't know, I always tell you resistance is futile. Here, take one. And I'm going to hand off to pass a few back, and Bowser, pass a few back.
You're the board?
Pardon me?
You're the board.
Exactly. Resistance is futile. You will succumb to my poetic ways or something. So that's just what I call these ones. I decided to come up with a few poems all about Star Trek and live long and prosper. And I just, well, we'll see what I've got with these. Thank you very much. I hope you appreciate this first one. It's called Red Matter. Try to understand everything in the universe. I dare you. Even the science geeks at the high-tech labs in the world can't explain how matter can function the way it does in our universe. The only way they can explain it all is by making up some invisible stuff and only guess its properties by seeing how it affects everything around it. Sounds crazy, no? Well, you might be right, but at some point in the game, when you've done all the experiments, all you can think of is then, well, it's time to start coming up with theories. Like the Big Bang Theory. When you look for more and more evidence to support your theory, which they've done, the Big Bang Theory starts to seem less and less like a theory. Well, it has to be a theory. No one was there to watch the universe when it started. But as those science geeks collect more and more evidence, we start thinking of the Big Bang Theory as probably the closest thing to the truth. Well, those scientists have been at it again. They plot stars, galaxies, and they see everything speeding away. And they think, wait a minute, even though gravity is weak, the universe shouldn't be flying apart. It makes no sense. The only thing I can come up with is this theory to explain it, is that there's some invisible matter driving everything apart. And one scientist happened to say the words, dark matter. And although the phrase makes no sense, it stuck. A bunch of things we can't explain. Oh, let's lump it all together in this elusive dark matter or dark energy. But what if this elusive darkness yielded something so red, fiery hot that instead of making the universe fall apart, it crammed all of that energy into a black hole? Let's come up with a term. Let's call this hot stuff red matter. Ignite this stuff and watch it turn whatever it touches into a black hole. I mean, one drop of this stuff could be enough to collapse a star or consume planets. You know, this might be the cool part of being a scientist. When you've learned all you can with the technology you have to come up with theories and look for evidence to support those fantasies. Who knows? Maybe this stuff was created by a species we've never found, like an intelligent Vulcan race who relied on logic to accomplish so much. Maybe it was created with a rare isotope of lithium, let's call it decalithium. And this red matter was first used to collapse a star that was about to go supernova into a quantum singularity, or a black hole. You see, anything is possible when it comes to theories. So, like that Vulcan mind you imagine, logically look for solutions and you'll be surprised at what you can discover. Thanks. Yeah, thank you very much, Robin. This one, I thought I'd try to combine a couple things with Star Trek. No, I'm going to skip ahead. I'm going to going back to my science. This is outer space and the sound of silence. The one thing astronomers talk about when they speak of outer space is about the deep blackness of the universe. That without our atmosphere giving the sun particles something to bounce off of, the vastness of space is an empty void. But the one thing they never talk about when they speak of outer space is the sounds they hear when they're out there. Who knows, maybe they're too preoccupied seeing through the universe. Maybe they're only hearing their heavy breathing while trapped in their spacesuit. Maybe all they hear is the motion of their bodies against the sides of their mini atmosphere in this planetary existence created in each astronaut's spacesuits. And sure, Captain Kirk or Jean-Luc Picard may not have needed spacesuits when commanding their Starship Enterprise because each ship was its own little planet with fully supported ecosystem. But the question begs itself, how could sound travel through space? I mean, I know light does. How else would we see sunlight travel through space to get to planet Earth? But sound, that's a whole different ball game, so to speak. Sound waves travel like light waves or heat waves, but here's the catch. Sound travels by making molecules vibrate. If there aren't any molecules in outer space, or too few to make any difference, sound can't travel. Now, I know it's all acting, and I know the whole crew has to all lean the same way when the ship gets hit. But the one thing that the directors want, and the sound effect guys have to add on in post-production, is to give movie-style explosions. And that probably goes over the top. We've suspended reality with every ship's gravity, and we can accept transporters duplicating any person, right down to every molecule, including their clothes, to magically be reassembled somewhere else, which only existed because in the original shows they didn't have props for travel, so they just made up this transporting idea. So over the years, we've been willing to suspend our beliefs for science fiction. And I know some places claim to hear noises from our sun, but they're actually inferring the vibrations within the sun, which generates sound so low that humans can't even hear it. When they do this, they have to speed up the sun's vibrations by 42,000 times. So 40 days of vibrations are converted into 5 seconds, so we humans can ascribe sound to anything outside of our atmosphere. Because resonances inside of our sound is sound bouncing through the gases inside of the sun, but not the sun relaying music to our ears. So, okay, Eugene Roddenberry, we get it. Make the mystery of outer space sound bigger than life by giving us a sense we lose in space. And Jean-Luc Picard, and you too, Captain James Tiberius Kirk. We'll thank the Foley artists as well as the actors for giving us more than science alone ever could. This one I confused. My husband, when I told him the title of this one is Eugene's Limit, he knows a Eugene. I'm like, no, it's not about him. This is called Eugene's Limit. Just read an article in the Daily Times of India newspaper that relayed the theory that an interstellar-style wormhole may exist in the Milky Way, that there's this teleporting tunnel we could magically step through that just pops us out somewhere else in the universe. But really, a wormhole is just a theory with a catchy little name that has no basis in reality. And no one's ever found a stable wormhole. Even Data and LaForge left the Barzan wormhole after discovering how unstable it really was. So I guess Star Trek has to settle for going beyond the speed of light with their precious warp drive. And you know, scientists have only now been able to figure out how to slow down the speed of light. Warning, science content. Researchers say that applying a mask to an optical beam, which would give it spatial structure, can reduce its speed an infinitesimally small amount from that beautiful constant 299,792,458 meters per second. And if all we've been able to do is try to slow down the speed of light, how are we ever going to get to Eugene's limits of warp 10? You know, it's really cute how we come up with names for scientific discoveries. The Big Bang Theory isn't a bang when there wasn't any atmosphere to allow sound to travel. Dark matter isn't dark at all. It's just a name our scientist said one time, and for some reason it's stuck. Eugene's Limit is in homage in The Next Generation to Gene Roddenberry, who thought that warp drive shouldn't go past 10. So, yeah, thanks to Gene Roddenberry, by the 24th century, infinite velocity was the unattainable warp factor 10. But wait a minute, let me get back to the science here, because when it comes to those science geeks who come up with these theories, like the Big Bang Theory or dark matter, They tried to bring Star Trek into the real world. They're using dilithium now to try to increase speed for distance travel for future journeys to Mars. Did you? That's kind of cool. And I don't know how many years scientists have been trying to transport even an atom to anywhere else in the world. But you know, when those science minds are out there, well, the writer Gene Roddenberry may have to come up with a warp drive limit. But with scientists, when they're taking their cues from the Star Trek model, the sky may not be the limit any longer. I thought it would be a fun one. I'm not even going to say the whole long name of it. It's all about science and me. I'm such an astronomy geek that when Pluto was demoted from his planetary status, Janet Kuypers here was pleased that Pluto was an icy ball from the Kuiper Belt. But I'm getting a little bent out of orbit whenever I hear astronomical info and I find out that Star Trek mentioned it to me first. Like, I got a globe of Mars, and when I squinted and read the name of the northern ice cap, Utopia Planitia, I remembered how the Enterprise D was built on Utopia Planitia. Or after hearing our scientists try to study Saturn's moon Titan, because it has all the elements of Earth when it first became a planet, that's when I hear on a Star Trek rerun how Ensign Wesley Crusher for training did a Jaeger loop around a Titan. We're trying to figure out how to fly anyone on a one-way trip to Mars, and 2 Enterprise ships were built there. We're trying to learn about Earth's history from a Titan, and a young pilot is doing tricks around that moon just to show off. Well, we might not have warp drive on our side, but if our scientists take their cues from science fiction, then we're catching up to Star Trek, and any character from that show won't match our knowledge of the final frontier. I seem to feel like I'm this early. This one, for those who don't know, some I'm afraid you do know, I decided to write a poem for every, science geek, for every element in the periodic table. And I also decided to come up with bonus ones, like I would do red phosphorus, white phosphorus, things like that as well. But one of the ones I had to do is one that...
Helium!
Oh, I did. And I also did helium addiction.
You don't take requests.
I did. Well, I don't have them all on me.
If I shout out an element, will you read the poem for that element?
If I had them with me, I would. If I had them with me, I would. I got 2 big books.
All right.
But I brought one along that was a bonus one. And if you ever want to bug me for it,
Lead.
I only did one for lead. Anyway, but I decided to do Diburnium.
All right.
And everybody's like, what is Diburnium? Spending another Saturday night alone, I watched an old episode of Star Trek. In this episode, Captain Kirk, McCoy, and Sulu were beamed down to a planet with no magnetic field. After the Enterprise disappeared from their sensors, Kirk hears Sulu say, "The basic substance of this planet is an alloy of diburnium osmium." And my brain stopped when I heard this elemental scrap. I racked my brain, wait a minute, I know osmium is an element, it's the densest metal in the periodic table, but diburnium? I know Star Trek mentions many elements and isotopes when they talk science. And hydrogen, it's isotope, deuterium, transparent aluminum, even dilithium, which I said before, scientists are now trying to use to boost speed for long-distance space travel. So I had to research this elusive diburnium. Now, the Memory Alpha on Star Trek Wiki confirmed that an abandoned Kalandan outpost was built as an artificial planet. It was composed of a diburnium osmium alloy. And according to the Starfleet Medical Reference Manual, the element diburnium had the symbol DB, atomic rate 319, and atomic number 122. Okay. This poet's paying far too much attention to the periodic table, but I know that right now 118 is as high as the table goes. So, like a periodic table addict, I still had to look into the science fiction that piqued my curiosity. The Star Trek Freedom Wiki explained that diburnium is a metallic element with phaser-resistant qualities. Okay, fine. Maybe I'll worry about these undiscovered elements only once they're discovered, because without actual phasers to worry about in the present, I think I'll stick with the elements we do know right now.
All right.
Like, all right, who on the subject for Elon? I gotta go. That's not any of them.